Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Rowell. All right, this is going to be kind of a weird video today. And since it's going to be such a weird video, I decided that we are going to declare today to be officially Weird Wipe Day. So let's talk a little bit about what that means before we get down to business. As you recall, a few weeks ago, I showed you a video that explained how it is I edit together these videos and kind of showed you the whole process. Well, basically, when you take two scenes and put them together without doing any kind of an effect to join the two videos together, basically what ends up happening is you play the first scene, it plays all the way to the end, and then you pick up the next scene, and there's just a cut between the two scenes. That is kind of the default way of editing videos together. And it looks kind of like this, where the first scene ends and it jumps immediately to the second scene. Now, they can do something a little bit more complicated. They can insert an effect between the scenes, and that's called a wipe. And the most common wipe I use on the program I use is called a crossfade. But in television world, it's called a dissolve. And it looks something more like this, where the first scene fades out and the second scene fades back in and it dissolves between the two images. That's the typical one I use when I do my videos because I think it's a little less distracting than some of the other ones that exist. But the program that I use has a whole bunch of different wipes that are available today to use. And I am going to use a bunch of them today just because, like I said, it's a weird wipe day. So let's get down to business. A few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago on a live stream, somebody asked a question about whether I believed in ghosts or had ever experienced any kind of a haunting. And in fact, let me, cut to that scene in the live stream and I'll just tell it to you in my own words. I'll tell you about a weird dream I had the other night, and I don't know if it was a dream or if it was a ghost encounter, but for the last, like I told you, it got cold here a couple weeks ago, and prior to that, I've been sleeping. I've just had a sheet and a blanket on my bed, and a lot of times even that's too much. So I'll just sleep on top of the covers with the ceiling fan on, and it kind of keeps things comfortable. Well, it got cold here a couple of weeks ago, and I actually pulled a comforter out of the closet and put it on the bed. Well, it warmed up a little bit, and it wasn't quite as cold in here anymore. And so I kind of took that comforter and put it down on the foot of the bed. Didn't put it back in the closet, just kind of put it on the foot of the bed so that if I needed, I could, if it got cold one night, I could just pull it up around me. Well, a couple nights ago, this was like 2 nights ago, so I guess that was like Friday morning, Thursday morning, one of those. About 6 a.m. I dreamt that I was sleeping in bed, and that comforter suddenly popped up and lifted up and covered up my face. And a couple seconds later, it felt like something pressed down on my chest. And ever since I moved into this place, I think my bed got damaged in the shipment over here, because now when I roll around a certain way in bed, or when I sit on the bed creaks in a certain way. And as I felt the pressure on my chest, I actually heard the bed creak as if there was extra weight being put on it. And it wasn't like a person was sitting there, but it was like there was 30 or 40 pounds being pressed down on my chest. And I kind of was able to push it off. And then a couple seconds later, I felt it again, and the bed would creak again. And this happened 3 times. And I thought for sure that I was having some sort of a ghost encounter or something like that. And then the next thing I was aware of, I was awake, and that comforter wasn't on my face anymore. It was down folded where by my feet. And I wasn't aware when I transitioned back from a dream back into the real world, but it seemed to me for a while there that I was having a ghost encounter. Now, I don't, like I said, I'm writing it off as a dream,
But it was one of the strangest dreams I've ever had.
So, anyway, now that you've kind of refreshed that little part of the story, um, that has happened three more times now for a total of four times, including once this morning. So I'm just going to kind of go through the all four of the encounters and let's talk about that because I'm really trying to figure out what this means. I'm still kind of convinced it's a dream, but I'm trying to analyze it and try and figure out if there's any commonalities or any kind of pattern to what's going on. I guess I'm kind of trying to psychoanalyze myself. They say an attorney who defends himself in court has a fool for a client. Um, I don't know what they say about people who psychoanalyze themselves, but I'm going to kind of leave that up to history to figure out. Anyway, first event happened about 2 weeks ago. I think it was Friday morning, and I think the live stream I did was on the 19th. So this would have been like the 18th, Friday, October 18th at about 6 a.m. Like I said in the video, the comforter was down by my feet, and I was sleeping. I was sleeping on my back, like I usually do, and next thing I know, the comforter gets flipped up and over my head, and I start feeling pressure on my chest, like somebody's pressing down. Now, somebody suggested in that live stream that it was some sort of a death premonition or something like that, possibly having to do with what was going on with my father because he was still in the hospital at the time. Because they said that the blanket kind of represented, being buried, and then the pressure on the chest was like chest compressions. Well, I don't necessarily think it was chest compressions because chest compressions are usually that kind of thing. This was like 20 or 30 pounds of pressure on my chest for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then I'd push it off, and then a few seconds later it'd be 20 or 30 pounds of pressure on my chest again for 3 or 4 seconds and push it off. And like I said, each time I'd hear the bed creak when it happened. And so that was really the thing that stuck in my mind because it was so realistic, even to the point where when I did wake up, I was laying in exactly the same position. And like I said, the bed creaking, that it just seemed really specific that that I dreamed it that way. And so that was what really kind of stuck in my mind about it. And then, like I said, when the comforter was back on the foot of the bed again, I just automatically assumed, okay, it must have been a dream. Well, a few days later, it happened again, and this time I was back using the comforter again, and so next thing I know, the covers were partially covering my face like this time. My eyes were still visible, my mouth and nose were kind of covered up with it, and it felt like somebody tried to roll me over on my side. And then I woke up again, and I was laying on my side, and it was all over. Now at this point, I'm going to back up a little bit here. Like I said, I'm trying to put all the pieces into place here. A few days before that, I had opened up one of the boxes that I actually had sitting in the computer room in the other room there, because I had some stuff that was combustible that I didn't want to put in the storage locker where it could get to 130 or 140 degrees. So I left it here in the apartment. Well, I needed to get something out of that box, and when I opened up the box, I found a light thing that Jordan had given me about a year ago. You may recall a while back, Jordan did a vlog where he'd bought this little globe thing that had like stars on it, and you could turn it on. It would project stars on the on the ceiling of his apartment. He did a video of that once. Well, shortly after that, he got me one of those, and he got put into one of the boxes when I moved. And I hadn't really thought about it, but when I opened up this box to get something else out, that was right there on top. I said, "Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna, take that out, and I'm gonna put that in my bedroom." Because you also remember a few weeks ago, I put that shade over the window so it was dark in my bedroom at night, because I was having problems sleeping when it would get light during the day, and the light levels were changing so much when the clouds were covering the sun or not covering the sun, and that was making it hard for me to sleep. Well, we've gone to the other extreme now with that shade thing, because now it's so dark in that room that even when it's light out, if I have to get up and go to the bathroom or something, I'm stumbling around in the dark in there. So what I've been doing lately is leaving that light on in my bedroom, and it just throws a little bit of light on the ceiling. And so, it isn't changing light. It isn't a distracting light, so I can sleep with it. But when I do open up my eyes, there's enough light in the room that I can see around. Well, uh, that night, the light had been on, and so immediately I woke up, saw what was going on, because there was enough light in there for me to see what was going on, and I realized, okay, that had just happened again, and I've kind of gotten to the point lately. I always had a problem telling when I was dreaming. In fact, one of the most frustrating things when I'm dreaming now that lets me know that I'm dreaming is that simple tasks become next to impossible to accomplish. Something as simple as putting on your clothes, just becomes something you can't do. And so that kind of I've gotten to the point now where that's happened enough time in my dreams that when that does happen, I start questioning, hey, am I dreaming? I never used to be able to do that before. Well, now that these reoccurring things involving the covers flying up over my face um, have started happening, I'm starting to become more aware that when that happens, hey, I'm dreaming, and so that allows me. Once I become aware I'm dreaming, I can wake myself up pretty easily. And so, like I said, when I felt myself roll over, uh, I said, okay, this is the same thing that happened the other night, and I woke myself up and I found I was laying on my side at that point, but nothing else was going on. Uh, well, a few nights later, it happened a third time. And this time the cover went up over my face again, and I felt something jump onto the bed. It felt like one of the cats had jumped onto the bed at the foot of the bed. And I remember kind of moving my legs to the side and pushing whatever it was off, and then waking up again and realizing, it was all just a dream. Well, like I said, last night it happened again. And this time the covers flew up over my face again, and I pushed them off. And at this point, I started thinking I'm dreaming, but I was wondering if it was a ghost encounter because some people had suggested that sometimes you get haunted through your dreams, not actual physical encounters, but haunted in your dreams. And so I started, saying to whoever was in the room, who the F are you? Who the F are you? Although I wasn't saying F. You have to use your imagination on that. I can swear like a soldier, but this is this is a family channel, so just use your imagination on that. But like I said, the covers went up over my face, and then when I started screaming, who the F are you? Who the F are you? The covers suddenly started to do it like this over me. And this went on for a couple seconds until I forced myself to wake up. And I didn't see or hear anything, didn't get any kind of a response at all. But then again, I woke myself up, and and everything was normal in the room. The covers weren't over my face at that point. Nothing seemed different. The lights were on. See, I remember when I was dreaming this, it was dark in the room. And so when I opened up and saw all the stars being projected on the sky, it's like, oh, okay, so that was another dream. Well, this time I looked at the clock again, because see, that's another pattern I'm trying to figure out, is if there's some time, where this always seems to happen. Well, the clock said 7 o'clock. Now, you remember when I told you about the event in the live stream a couple weeks ago? I said I looked at the clock and it was about 6 a.m. Well, it was 7 a.m. this morning, so I immediately made the connection. Okay, wait, it's a different time. So maybe the clock isn't something associated with it. And then when I got up, it's like, wait a second, it's Sunday morning. We changed to daylight savings time today, or changed off of daylight savings time, and the clocks went back. So it was actually 6 a.m. when it happened. The clock in my room hadn't been set because I didn't change it last night. Now, I don't know if that means anything. Does that mean the ghosts pay attention to daylight saving time and normal time? I don't know. But I thought that was an interesting little thing. They say dreams are just kind of your subconscious kind of messing around with you, kind of processing maybe things that are going on in your life. And it could be the fact that I'm just having the same one over and over again, is maybe each one of them is just kind of inspiring, the subconscious to be a little bit more active. and constantly, having more and more dreams about it, and it's just kind of a self-perpetuating myth. But I don't know, it could be some sort of a ghost encounter too. I don't really know what to make of it, but like I said, every time it happens now, um, when I wake up, I suddenly start getting the chills, like I'm cold. I'm actually going to probably put my electric blanket on tonight, just so that if it does happen again, I can stay warm again. And also, I just can't go back to sleep after that. Now, that may be because the dream just scared me. It may also be because I'm always kind of a light sleeper to begin with, and if I've been sleeping for a while and then wake up and then try and go back to sleep, it just doesn't work. And so I don't know what that means, but like I said, I'm just trying to put all the pieces together in my head, try and come up with some common denominator to explain all this. And I don't know what it means. So, if you have any thoughts on this, like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just trying to piece all the pieces together and figure out exactly what it means, if anything. Like I said, it could just be a series of dreams I'm having, and it could mean nothing, and maybe it does mean nothing. I'm also considering, one of the pieces of the puzzle I'm considering is, this all kind of started after I started working over at the Silo of Screams people, the Silo of Screams thing over in Temple. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I did go down to Silo of Screams last night and did their blackout thing. Now, I don't know, maybe there is something evil that happened there, and maybe I brought it home with me. Maybe it's just that's what's, the scary things that I was portraying in there. Maybe that's just going into my subconscious, and that's what's bringing this all out. Who knows? It's also possible that there is some sort of a supernatural something that's triggering all this. And, maybe I got to do a little research and see if there's been any like violent crimes in this apartment complex, perhaps in this very room. But I don't know what it means. Like I said, I'm just trying to piece it all together. And I thought it was interesting. The second after I got done, I started thinking about it this morning. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to talk about this on the vlog, and that may be part of the reason why I couldn't even get back to sleep, because at that point my mind was racing about, what are we going to talk about? How can I do this? What am I going to say? Should I reenact this stuff? I came up also the idea of doing the weird wipes at that point, and here we are. So, by the way, when I was over at Silo of Screams last night, my friends over there gave me this really cool t-shirt. So I figured, based on what happened last night with my dreams and all that, it'd be a good shirt to wear. So yeah, it says this on the front, and that's what's on the back. So, I thought it was really interesting. I really like the t-shirt. I really enjoyed doing that. And in fact, when we were talking last night, something interesting also happened. They were talking kind of at one of the low points during the evening. The guy who runs the place, John, came over and was talking to a couple of the actors, and I just happened to be there, and he was talking about what comes next now that Silo of Screams is done for the Halloween season. They're going to bring the thing back for a couple of days in December, for December 13th and 14th, because I guess the 13th is a Friday the 13th this year. And they're going to open up a couple of the mazes with kind of a Christmas theme. And John was saying that he was going to bring in, have actors playing some of the big three slasher horror movie stars from the 80s. Jason from Friday the 13th, Michael Myers from Halloween, and Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. And he was trying to figure out who he was going to, get to do the different characters. And he said he needs to get somebody really big to do, big and large and tall to play Freddy Krueger. And he looked over at me and said, you'd be great for it. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to do Freddy Krueger. That would be fun. Well, after the night was over and I was getting ready to go home, I walked up to him because I wanted to talk to him about that again and actually tell him, hey, I'd really love to do that. And as he came up to me, he said, yeah, I want to talk to you about maybe doing, Freddy Krueger for us. And it's like, yeah, well, that's actually what I wanted to come talk to you about. I'd love to do that if the chance came. And he says, okay, well, we'll see what happens. We'll talk about that when we get closer. So who knows? I may be going back to Silo of Screams in middle of December, depending on what the job situation looks like, and playing Freddy Krueger. I could absolutely do that. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Yeah, so I'm going to probably have to sit down and watch my Freddy Krueger movies, my Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and just kind of study the character a little bit so that I could be Freddy Krueger. So, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I thought I'd share that with you. So, anyway, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of my Patreons this month. I'm going to put your name on the screen right here. And after that, I believe that is all I have for today. If you have any thoughts on what these dreams mean, you know what? I understand you're not a psychiatrist. I'm probably not going to take any specific advice, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So put them in the comments and let me know. And other than that, thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night. Pleasant dreams.